Now, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
7:07, it's a Friday morning here in Washington. We have Stuart Varney from the Fox Business Channel coming up at 7:36. About a half hour from now, we'll talk to him. We're waiting the big jobs numbers. About 8:30 this morning. Brett Baer from the Fox News Channel coming your way as well at 8:36. And Mitch McConnell, Republican leader in the Senate, coming up in the 8 o'clock hour as well. John Funn's on the line, senior editor, American Spectator magazine. Good morning, John.
Pleasure, thanks.
It's always good to have you. So I don't remember if you actually did it on our show, but you have predicted in the past that Sarah Palin would not run, so your prediction came true. Why do you think she's not running?
Well, I think that she didn't have any kind of an organization on the ground in primary states. She looked at the polls, which showed 66% of Republicans and almost the same number in the Tea Party didn't want her to run. And I think she has discovered one of the great truths of the modern American political system, which is with new media, you can still have a voice even if you're not running for president. But remember, she had made up her mind months ago. I think the teasing out was a bit ridiculous. I think it helped her raise money for her PAC. I think it helped her get attention. And now I think that now that the teasing is over, her influence will decline somewhat.
All right, we've been talking to people on our radio show for quite some time about Sarah Palin, and I've noticed that there has been a big drop-off in just overall support for her. People still support her, but don't want her to run. Why is that? Why has she lost some of that magic?
Well, there's an old saying in Hollywood, which is, don't leave them wondering what in the world you're doing. And I think she spent the last year just confusing the hell out of everybody, and the act got tired after a while.
Just kind of toying with people?
Look, her own daughter appeared on a television show and said, my mom has already made up her mind. I know what her decision is. Mm-hmm. Well, we know what her decision was. She decided not to run. So that means from at least June until now, she was just toying with people.
Well, and there are those of her diehard supporters who genuinely believed she was going to jump in, and I have seen a little bit of blowback. Do you think there will be any blowback on her long term? And second, where do her diehard supporters go now that she has declined?
Good question.
Well, I know Newt Gingrich is already reaching out to her to try to see if he could get an endorsement. I think Sarah Palin is going to hold back on an endorsement. She may not endorse anyone. In that case, I think that a bunch of them go to Perry. Some of them will go to Bachmann, because Bachmann is very much the same profile as Sarah Palin. A few of them may go to Newt. Some of them may just be so disappointed they just sit it out.
Speaking of Newt Gingrich, last night on CNN, he's being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer and asked if he would say yes or no if offered the vice presidency, and Newt's answer was, well, it wouldn't be a no. Well, and Wolf Blitzer went after him, trying to get more from him on that, and Gingrich declined to do anything other but sit there and smile. But that's sort of interesting, because a lot of people don't want to be considered the guy who would consider the number 2 position.
I think Newt wants to be in the room when the decisions are made. Mm-hmm. I think Newt has lots of great ideas. Newt is super bright. He should be consulted by any Republican president. But can you imagine a Republican presidential nominee in their right mind picking Newt Gingrich with his lack of message discipline on television as their VP running mate?
It'd be like picking Joe Biden.
You said
it. Well, so you don't think he would be seriously considered by the others?
The sound you hear is the long pause that will take place when anyone considers that option.
All right, let me ask you another thing. Are you aware of this thing that happened on the Senate floor last night, where the Republicans tried to bring up the jobs bill, and the Democrats so irritated by it that they actually changed on a straight party line vote the rules of the Senate to prohibit that from happening? Something we've sort of likened here to a tactical nuke going off. It's not the full-blown nuclear option, but sort of a small nuclear explosion last night.
Well, I find it striking that Harry Reid even admitted on the Senate floor, I'm not 100% certain what I'm doing here is the right thing. Mm-hmm. I might live to regret it. I think he may well live to regret it, because the best guess is that Republicans are going to take control of the Senate next year. They obviously will look at this precedent very closely. Remember, This is a mini version of the nuclear option that Republicans threatened to use back in 2005 when Democrats were holding up judicial nominees. And the Democrats, gave all kinds of pious speeches about how the rules of the Senate must be inviolate. And here they are. I know the Senate rules are frustrating. The Senate rules are frustrating for any party in power. But when you change them, you set off a series of unintended consequences, and I think we may see those next year when I suspect the Republicans take over the Senate.
As I was saying earlier, it's hard to sort of explain the arcane way the Senate operates, but let me tell you, it is a big dog deal, is it not?
Actually, it is easy to explain how the Senate works. Everything that's done is there to slow things down.
Well, that's what they do.
What do you make of Marco Rubio's comments that he will not be the VP nominee?
Well, if he were directly asked, it would be very difficult for him to say no. What he is trying to sell any Republican presidential nominee, I don't want the call. You're going to have to hunt me down to take it. I think his political advisors believe that becoming number two to anyone, being a second banana, diminishes you and does not give you necessarily a leg up on the presidential nomination. As a result, he wants to build a career in the Senate. He's only been there 2 years. But again, if the election is close and the polls have tightened, Marco Rubio may find it difficult to say no.
How serious do you take Herman Cain?
I think Herman Cain is an incredibly important demonstration that the Tea Party is alive and well, and it is willing to look at all kinds of different candidates. And Herman Cain is certainly different. Does he have the organization in the early primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, to seriously get the Republican nomination? I doubt it, but I think he has established himself as a force in Republican politics and conservative circles for years to come. They now, in addition to Clarence Thomas, in addition to Alan West, there is now a new superstar African-American conservative on the political scene.
All right, and lastly, we talked about being in Iowa in February or January. Thought that might be a little bit early now. There's, who knows, maybe even December. These things that keep getting pushed up, these primaries. Is it good for the Republican Party to have these things so early?
Is it good for any of us? The answer is no. At a minimum, you're not going to see the Iowa caucuses until early January. People are not going to want to open their Christmas presents and discover that they're probably presidential candidates yelling at them from outside.
Yeah, but they're going to be calling them on the phone during the Christmas holidays if they want them to go out in January, right?
I think at some point the people in Iowa are going to say enough is enough. I think we're going to see some renewed pressure, especially on the folks in Nevada, to try to, and maybe even in Florida, to try to push their date back. Just because they've said the date is inviolate, that doesn't mean you can't put pressure on them. For example, not just take away half their delegates, but how about taking away their hotel rooms in Tampa, Florida for the convention?
That's an idea.
That's the nuclear option.
Yeah, right. All right, John, always great to have you on the program. Thanks very much.